Welcome to the Beauty Business Strategies podcast. I'm Christy Hardy here with Michael Yost, and today we are joined by Michelle Bartlein, who is the owner of Savoye Salon out in Green Bay, Wisconsin, and a certified strategies coach, and the newest Salon Today Top 200 winner in the culture category. Welcome, Michelle. We're glad to have you.
Hey, Michelle.
Hello.
Congratulations on that award before we get started. It's a real honor to be nominated and to be the true award winner in the culture category especially. It's a really important one.
This was my favorite one. This is the one I always want to win because without culture, there's nothing. So this one really spoke to me and I was like, yay. It was a celebration with our team. Honestly, it's a celebration for our team. And it just solidifies, that we're on course. It's not that we have it perfect, we're on course. And when I do these applications, because they're pretty lengthy, it's kind of like a test to see, a validation of like a check and balance. When you go through the process, it's a check and balance, like, okay, are we really doing what we say we're doing? So it is. It's very exciting. Thank you.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's so cool. I mean, the culture piece is an awesome thing. Like, you just kind of had said, and I'm curious to know, like, what is this? Why is this the one that you kind of somewhat answered it, but really, why is this the one that you want to win?
I have to go back in 2012 when I took over Savoye. I purchased Savoye. It was a young company, took it over, and I realized, okay, this is not how I want to work, live, any of that. So it was like, okay, there's something that I have to change. And of course, I could talk about, strategies is a big part of it, but you're not going to see me reading a lot of fictional books. I'm always reading the self-help books and whatnot. And everything was very parallel when it came to business, and leadership is number one. But if your company culture is not healthy, there's really not much to it. So it was like, okay, I gotta figure out, and you notice I always say the word we, because this is not just me. I play at the same level as the rest of the team. And I think that's something, as an owner, I find really important to get down to earth with, that you're not bigger, better. You don't walk on a pedestal, things of that nature. It's get down to their level, because you're no different. You just play a different role on that team. So as soon as then I learned that culture was going to make the shift of what I didn't like, because it was just a country club. A good culture builds trust.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I think you bring up the key word there, that idea of trust, but I think you hit on it, which is we all have to play the role the same way. Like, we're not, our roles are all different, but we're all playing that same game is maybe the better way to say it. Well, we each have different roles in the game of our business. It still is, we're all playing that same exact game. And I think that's what you just were sharing, Michelle, which is so important is, your culture is one that's built on this idea of, hey, listen, this might be my title, this might be my job description, but, it takes all of us playing this, our specific roles to be able to achieve what we want to achieve.
Absolutely. I go back to, I grew up playing basketball, and I used to, when I was in my salon and spa, I used to reference basketball a lot. And we're right now in Husky season. But it's, I think about the different roles, as you were saying, like there's a coach that is leading this team that is just as important as that, the person who is the point guard, the person who is the center. There are so many pieces that are so specific, but so necessary to all be involved, at the same level of passion. And it doesn't matter if you're the owner, if you're a stylist, if you're an esthetician or a front desk person. It's, it truly is about being on the same court, on the same field together. So that's awesome.
You nailed it. I too am a basketball person at heart. Analogies. Using a lot of analogies with your team to get them to a place of understanding that whole concept, that it's not about what is the show, The Miracle? It's not about the name on the back. It's about it's the team name. It's not about, Bartlein on the back of my shirt. It's Savoye Salon Spa. We're all in this together.
Yeah.
And we really did. We do retreats. It kind of runs let's try that again. It runs me into, because I get really excited about a retreat. Our retreats are something that we do every year. And we have a focus. And one year we did that. It was focused all around that. We even got shirts that had their last names on the back and then Savoye on the front. And they really started rallying around it. So what I'm getting to is it's getting analogies to get them to understand it really isn't about, in fact, we don't have the word manager. We don't have the word director, things of that nature. We all know what our roles are in the company, and we also let it happen organically. So I'm tapping into and finding what they're really good at and letting them run with it, because they all bring fantastic contributions to the culture. And so there again, it's bringing that trust in. It doesn't matter if you're 2 months into being at Savoye. If you're new, it doesn't mean you're going to sit down and do nothing. It's like, what do you got to contribute? You have something, which leads into personality. Personality is a big aspect into if you fit into our culture. That's how we hire. If you've got that mentality that you're motivated, you're teachable, you're coachable, it just leads into the next piece. So what I would say is, we look at those fine details that most don't look at, instead of looking at, here's we've got our goals that we want to reach. We don't look at the goals. We break everything down, which includes culture. We break everything down into areas that will make the biggest impact.
Yeah.
And it
is
always
communication, I'm sorry to cut you off there. Is communication one of those key areas? Like, how do you communicate with your team around culture?
For sure. So right out of the gate, when we're interviewing, we do kind of have a process to it. I meet with somebody first, and then it comes down to our team. Our team does the interviewing. So the communication piece right there is, they're reading into the personality, like I said, and then they'll do the assessments of their skills and whatnot. But right there, we're laying out communication is really important to us. So the more honest you can be with us all around, the more that we're going to grow together. And it goes back into that team thing, like you were saying. We're in it to win, and we're trying to find the team players that are going to bring the best pieces to the table. So then communication, I was talking to you earlier. I removed myself from having really formal sit downs. Yes, we do performance reviews regularly, but even those, when I do interviewing, I get really down to earth with them as well. I don't want it to be stuffy. I want them to be in their natural state. I want them to feel that safety and that connection with us right out of the gate. But then we have coffee talks. So our one-on-ones, just come sit in my office. My door is always open. I actually have sticky notes on my door. So if my door is shut, it might just be that, I'm recording something, I'm listening, but otherwise there's a sticky note, come on in. My door is always open. I want to know what's going on in their world. I want them, friendly. I want to be friends with them. And the more that you can get to that concept of being on a friendly level, instead of I'm your boss, you're the employee, they're more open to telling you things. I can read into, if they seem down one day, it's like, hey, you all right? But again, communication. I want them to feel very comfortable being comfortable talking to each other, myself. That goes back to I'm not higher than them. We're in this together. So communication is absolutely one of our key values.
I think one of the things that I love that you're sharing that, and one of the things that's kind of hitting my brain is I'm almost hitting this idea that there are like 3 C's around culture. Culture's 3 C's. Because you mentioned a couple things. You just mentioned communication,
yep.
Is something, but I love that you talked about, prior to this too, you talked about contribution, and you talked about, and again, all this does too is connection. So we think about contribution, connection, and communication being the key to culture.
I like it.
There's a t-shirt
like
in here
it.
somewhere. I know there's a t-shirt in here. I just got to figure it out. It's coming to me as I'm sitting. But I like the idea of contribution. You talked about that earlier, and it really kind of hit me as you were the way you were talking and listening to what you were sharing. Is I think one of the keys is showing people how they can contribute and giving them ways to give a contribution, to be a part of something that does make that connection with something. But, I think that is a big building block when we talk about culture and how do you grow a stronger culture. People have to feel a part of it. And I think that's where contribution comes in. What do you do? Like, let's say, for example, in your business now, Michelle, you probably have brand new people that are part of your business. How do you show them contribution or being able to contribute there? But also, how do you kind of hold with that with someone that maybe now the opposite end of the spectrum, maybe someone that's been with you for, 10 years, 15 years, however, right? More longevity. How does that play in both sides of that?
In contribution, you're saying like, how do they contribute to the team in general?
Yeah, I think how do they contribute to the team? How do they contribute to the culture? How do they just even contribute to the business on the day-to-day that makes them feel as though they have a place in there, which I think all of that leads to, that to me is at the heart of that whole culture piece that you have in your company. So yeah, whichever way you want to look at it, whatever lens I think is the right one, but.
I'm looking at it like this. So you have to remove yourself again as the owner that it's micromanaging. Don't go away from the micromanaging and having things be just so uber structured. We have tons of systems, let the systems do the work. But when it comes to this contribution piece, I'm thinking right now I have a younger one where, I always ask them in a review or even a one-on-one, their coffee talks, what's speaking to you right now? What do you love to do? What's coming at you? What do you feel like you want to tap into? Because it changes as their career goes on. And so like I have a younger one and she's like, I really want to take care of like the newsletter. I want to do a newsletter and I want to do like some imagery up in the front on this board. And she just runs with it. I trust her enough. I don't even look at the newsletter anymore.
That's awesome.
I don't look at it because I trust her. But I let her, and she's only been with us 3 years. Okay. So what does that do to somebody new that comes in? They're like, wow, I can expand on areas I want to grow in. I don't push services if they don't want to do a certain service. They're uncomfortable. It's, whatever it may be, but I want them to prosper in areas that they love. And they come up with new services all the time. So then you flip on the other end of the spectrum. And so I have some that are, like me, about 30 years in the industry, your body starts to say, nope, can't do that too much anymore. They go into different leadership roles. Like we do a huge fundraiser. It's going on right now. For Earth Month, we have a beanbag tournament we've done for many years. And we make money for the Great Lakes, and she heads all that. So if you think about the advertising, the community connection, again, there's another C, Michael. We really like getting involved in our community. And they also allow me then on my end, I'm very involved in our community. And it does contribute to that culture piece again. It contributes to the growth of our company because customers love seeing that. They love seeing our connection within us. So, just tying in from every moment you're in the company, it's really letting you pick and choose some areas that you want to play into it. So there's never like a definitive, like, here's what you do at the first year and here's what you do at your 30th year. It's what makes you sing. People hear me say this a lot. It's what makes you sing, what makes your heart sing. Because if your heart's singing, we're all singing.
Yeah. I love that you really are fostering innovation within your team. It doesn't have to come from you as the owner, as something new, let's try something. I think that's awesome. That's really great.
Yeah. Christy,
That's really great.
what makes your heart sing, Christy?
Oh my gosh, right? Nothing like putting me on the spot, right? Connection, right? I think we all get into this business because of it. I want to be a part of something that is making the world a better place, whether it's just in our small little community or the greater community. I think it's probably something that is ingrained in many of us that are in this industry, for sure. All right, so I'm going to flip the switch on you. I have a question for you, Michelle.
Here.
And Michael, you pipe in on this one too. What steps can salon owners take to address conflicts constructively
Another C word.
and maintain harmony? So, like, we are talking about things that make it feel like kumbaya, everything is always perfect at Savoye or at Strategies or, insert name. What happens when it's not? How do you deal with that?
And I pridefully say at this point, I mean, this is how many years in the making, we don't have that, but I will tell you how it got to this point.
Okay.
We don't have that because we really foster the concept of, teaching in the moment, coaching in the moment. And, of course, not in front of a customer or anything like that. But it doesn't make sense to me to come tell me something and then it's just regurgitated. I may say it different, go take care of it. So we work at it like any other relationship. If it's a marriage, and that's the analogy I use. This is just like a family. We have to respect it as a family. There are going to be times that we grumble at each other, but we have to take care of it right in that moment. We don't go to sleep mad, right?
Yeah.
But how did it get to that point? It was really it was in several meetings. Our staff meetings are work sessions. They're very organized. We work on a topic. The last one we've been doing is self-reflection. That was one of our last topics, was self-reflection. We got really deep into that. But when you really foster that kind of thinking, it gets them to be self-sufficient, and I want them to be solutionists.
Yeah.
So, the conflict's not there, but it took a long time to be able to get them to open up and trust this whole idea. To be really fair, when anyone leaves Savoye, I pridefully go, it hasn't been over conflict. They leave because they have children, they move out of the area. They just, for whatever reason, they choose not to be in into the profession anymore. And usually, again, it goes into children. Mm-hmm. But, I feel really prideful that we're, it's part of our vision and our mission is to create a chain of good in the community and beyond, so we're really setting that tone of, I hope no matter if they leave, they still have these skill sets that they're doing this out in their families. They're doing this out in the community. So it goes a lot further than just in Savoye. But really, that if there were a conflict, okay, if we rewind, Christy.
Yeah.
This is the steps I would coach somebody to do as well. Don't do it when you're angry. Like, if you give yourself the 24-hour rule. Get the emotion out of it. Second of all, write down the things that you feel are important you need to talk about. So
that's a key, isn't it? I always thought that was a huge key. I wrote down stuff all the time. I didn't want to forget what was important. I also need to really reanalyze what I was going to talk about. Yeah.
Asking them, okay, so you have your perception of what happened in that conflict. What is their perception? Perception is different to everybody. Make sure you're listening to hear their words and be fair. Don't interrupt them. Let them talk. Hear what they have to say, and then work together of, okay, so clearly we have to get through this. What do you see as a solution? What do you see? Let them answer.
That's great.
Yeah. And then come to a compromise and a timeline and some steps. So nobody loves tough conversations. But I don't know. My husband laughs because he thinks I love tough conversations. I'm like, no, I love resolution. I love getting through them. I think I don't like when people aren't getting along. I want to find peace. So I think that's why maybe it looks like I like tough conversations. I like peace. So it's how can you find peace? And it's listening and, finding a solution and, working together. Back to that collaboration.
Yeah.
Communication.
Absolutely.
Well, I was going to say, I think that's I love what you shared, and I think that's part of the key is, I think when you think about conflict, I think conflict happens because there is lack of communication, and really, that's one part of it, for sure, but staying with even what we've kind of used as our just kind of stumbled upon theme in some ways, but it's when people feel disconnected, that lack of connection, I think that's the heart of where conflict probably starts, is the fact that there wasn't a lot of great communication around maybe a certain area, a certain topic, whatever, and I feel disconnected from that. And therefore now, I think that's where we get off on, different wavelengths, different opinions, different thoughts on it. So I love what you shared, Michelle, with that is just, it's like, all right, how do we recenter ourselves sometimes? What does that need to look like? Like I said, if that means, like you just shared, that means taking a 24-hour just kind of moment, writing some things down, getting clarity. And I love the fact it's like going for, all right, let's be solution-based, resolution-based around, again, clearly communicating makes all the difference in the world. So this is awesome. As we kind of wind things up here, Michelle, got one last thing, just for me personally, I got one last question for you, is if you had to give just one tip, like what's the one, after everything we talked about today, maybe it's in that same vein, or maybe it's something kind of different that brings it all together. But if you had to share one thing that you say, hey, listen, new business owner comes to you and says, I want to strengthen my culture, and boom, what's your one tip, the biggest thing you'd stress to someone?
Oh, there's a lot of tips. Okay. So you all know I'm a big believer in brain dumping. So I think it's just getting down, brain dumping the things that annoy you in your business, and then finding solutions to that, and then making a game plan. But it all comes down to, you have to be really honest with yourself as a leader. There are things that we have to work on. And it's always, it's continuing. And a lot of it ends up on our plate of, are we listening? Am I being a good listener? Am I paying attention? So a lot of self-reflection on that regard, but definitely just brain dumping and just getting that all out of your head, because it brings a lot more clarity of what needs to happen, and being honest. Honesty.
Yeah,
Love it.
absolutely.
Again, culture starts with a leader. I love how you dialed in on that, and that's awesome. Great stuff.
Absolutely.
Great stuff.
Do you have any words of wisdom on what you would feel?
Listen,
for a
I
new owner?
cannot follow that type of wisdom there, because
I
but
know,
I think
she's
that
good.
I think that really is. I think that really is so true. I'm glad you said it, Michelle, because I have to say, when I asked the question, I didn't have my immediate answer in my brain.
Yeah.
But you're exactly right, Michelle. If you want a culture, it has to start with leadership. And really, the only thing I would add to it, and you were saying it, I'll just kind of maybe express it differently, is what's important to you, your values, the vision that you have for your company, the passion that you have for your company. That's where it all has to start. That's the formation of a culture. People are attracted to your passion, your values, the things that you feel strong about. And so I would say, like, it's just building on what you were really saying there, Michelle, but it's just exactly that. It starts with you, and then it's just a matter of staying with that, and again, allowing people then to kind of wrap it all together, allowing people then to contribute to that, clear communication around that, clear connection with that, then suddenly a culture, boom!
It's there.
There it is.
It's amazing. And then you're winning awards.
Then you're winning, that's right, then you're rolling in the awards there, Michelle.
I have to put one little piece into what you just said, Michael, because to me, this was an eye-opener, one of those self-reflection pieces. Yes, your vision and your values are all, we start them. But as you grow in your culture and it gets deeper, it shifts a little bit. Like, I'll look at our values and go, okay, that might not be my personal value at home, but it's a value for us at Savoye. And this is what we develop. So this is now a collective behavior, right? That's what it's a collective.
Love it.
And
That's huge awareness for owners too, I think, because we had that same kind of scenario and conversation that happened in our business. And it truly was, wait, that's not my personal value. Like that wouldn't be my top 5. And then we discussed it as a team, and it was number 1. You know, it was such a need within our business culture. It was super eye-opening. So great to end on that point. Michelle, it has been an absolute pleasure diving into culture with you. We'll do it again. And if you out there need any help with your culture or your beauty business strategies, definitely click on the link within our the description below, and we would love to chat with you. Michelle, thank you so much for joining Michael and I today.
Thanks, Michelle.
Thank you so much.
Thanks again for listening to the Beauty Business Strategies podcast. If you like this episode, be sure to hit follow to learn more about how strategies can help create more fun, profit, and growth potential for you, your company, and your team. We invite you to schedule a free 60-minute strategy session by clicking the direct link in the description of this episode.